Hello everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm starting off my video by choosing two winners from the product showcase video. I'm going to be giving away two $50 gift cards to Scrappy Tales. Here are all the names of the people who commented on that video or commented during the premiere. So here is the wonderful wheel. I spun it, and then our first winner is Stamp Girl. Congratulations. I'm going to reach out to both winners in the comment section, and all you have to do is email me to claim your prize. I will have my email listed in the video description. So here I spun the second wheel for our next winner, and that is Anne Holiday. Congratulations, both Stamp Girl and Anne. Happy shopping. Leave some love for them in the comments. Thank you to everyone who did participate and leave a comment, liked my video. I know it was very long. So yeah, very exciting. I know a lot of you have been waiting for the giveaway to be announced, but I always like to show it in my videos because I think the wheel is really fun. So better late than never, right? Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create the A7 spinning pop-up snow globe along with a slimline shadow box swinging globe. So I'm creating two cards that match. Here are the products I'm using. I'll be using the slimline snow globe, the A7 snow globe, these winter trees, winter essentials, and then the bold Christmas sayings hot foil plates, and the freebie that came in this collection. I'm going to be using the die, and it's just a beautiful little whimsical reindeer. You can also purchase that one separately, but if you spend $150 or more, you'll get that one for free. So I did all of my die cutting off camera. I started by cutting 4 navy blue slimline frames, and I created those by using the large base die that's included in this die set. It's the largest die in there, and then the largest rounded rectangle to create that frame. Then I have 2 solid snow globe panels that are going to go on the back of my card. I have one of the accordions that goes at the bottom, so the largest accordion in the set. I cut the little rectangle that's included at the bottom there from gray cardstock, and on that I silver foiled Let It Snow. That's going to be my sentiment. I have 2 of these small top accordion pieces with the hole inside. And then I have 4 of those side accordions, but I forgot to show that. So for the A7, I have the one large accordion that's going to go at the bottom of the card. I did die cut that same rectangle for my sentiment. That time I foiled Merry and Bright with silver foil. I cut the trapeze twice from the same gray cardstock. I also, here I'm going back to the slimline, here are those side pieces. I cut 4 of them because I'm going to be creating a shadow box with this die. So it's going to be a little bit different than the card I showed a couple weeks ago. This is another variation of what you can do with these dies. I also cut 1 of the small rounded rectangles from white cardstock. That is going to be my swinging piece. And then I did cut 2 of the gray trapezes for the bottom of that one as well. So these cards do match. I went with the same cardstock. For the frame on my A7, I cut 4 navy frames. I'm going to be gluing 2 back to back so that they're a little more sturdy. I have 1 top accordion piece. I'm showing 2, but I only end up using 1. And that is basically where you hang your spinner or your swinging piece. I have 2 white circles. These are the smaller of the 2 circles that's included in the set. And then I'm also going to end up cutting 2 navy circles, which you'll see later. So for my winter trees, this set includes the detailed tree that cuts out the little snow pieces and then the solid layer that goes behind. So I cut a variety of them from gray, white, and vellum. I wasn't sure what I wanted to use, so I just kind of cut a bunch that I could work from and decide later. I also die cut some white lanterns from that set. From the winter essentials, I did die cut both of these 2 reindeer that are looking at each other. I'm only going to end up using one of these but at the time I wasn't sure. So I always do extra die cutting because I like to get it all out of the way first and then start assembling my cards, and nothing is more annoying than having to stop what you're doing to die cut. So I figure if I have extras, I can always use them on another card. So here I have my large reindeer. That again is the freebie. I cut it twice from heavyweight white cardstock and twice from silver cardstock, and I'm going to use him on my first card. So as I mentioned, I wanted to have the smaller circle cut from the navy cardstock. This is actually the circle that die cuts from that frame of the globe, so I reused it and cut the smaller circle from that. I also have my white circles that I die cut with a snow hill. I wanted everything to line up nicely, so that's why I had that extra white one. You don't really need to do that. You can always just hand cut around the circle. I also figured since it is a slimline snow hill, I might as well cut some scrap piece of cardstock because I knew I needed another snow hill for the bottom of my trapeze on the card. So here I have my navy blue circles with the white snow hill, and I'm going to go with the gray tree with the vellum layered behind. So if you want this to be a snowy tree, you would obviously add white, but because my reindeer is so detailed, I felt like the white would be a little bit too distracting, so I like how the vellum looked. Here I'm adding one layer of white behind my silver deer just to pop it up a little bit and make it more substantial. I know it doesn't seem like one layer doesn't do a lot, but it really does. Usually I do two, but because these are spinners, I don't want to add a whole lot of weight. So yeah, I'm not adding any foam tape. I just went with the one layer of white behind my deer. I am going to give him a little bow, and that bow is included in the same Winter Essentials die set with the other two deer. I thought it'd be really cute to give them some little bows around their necks. Here I have my Vellum Tree. This is the smallest of the two trees in that set. I'm going to have to end up trimming it a little bit. I love these trees for scene building. They're great fillers, so I've been using them a lot on my cards lately. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue down my reindeer, and then off camera I'm going to create the exact same navy blue circle again to create the back of my spinner. Because this piece spins, you want to be able to see something from the front and back. You don't have to do the exact same design. You can change it up a little bit, but in this case I went with the same design on both sides. So now I can work on assembling my snow globe, and just to make it more sturdy, I want to glue two framed globes back to back. You don't have to do this, but here I'm using 65-pound paper. It's pretty thin, and the weight of the spinner will cause it to either lean forward or backward. So by doubling up my layers, I ensure that everything is going to be nice and stable, and that spinner is going to stay in the center of the card. So I did that with the front and the back. Now, if you're using 100-pound or 110-pound cardstock, you don't have to double it up. But I really wanted this navy blue cardstock. I only had it in 65-pound. So you can always use your colored cardstock, just be sure to double it up if it is lighter weight. So here I have my bottom accordion piece. I just created the mountain and valley fold. Basically all you do is fold up, flip around, fold up, flip around, and fold up until you get all the way to the bottom. You're going to notice that there is this 1-inch flap, and I added that so that you would have an area to add your sentiment. If you don't want that, you can cut it off, and then that way you'll be able to see more of the trapeze. But in this instance, I wanted to use those hot foil sentiments, so that was the perfect spot to add my sentiment. So I'm going to leave it on. I'm going to glue my first frame onto the first mountain behind that 1-inch flap, and then my back frame I'm gluing to the back mountain, so the very last one in the back. Once your frames are adhered, you can then add your top accordion piece. So this is just a simple M fold where you pinch in the center and fold down the two flaps on the sides to create this M shape. You want to make sure that the points are pointing upwards and not creating a W but an M. Once you have that, you can go ahead and glue each tab to the top notches of each frame to connect both of them together. I am using art glitter glue here. I would suggest strong double-sided tape. It ended up working fine, but you can see that I used a lot of glue on this. So to avoid warping and to make sure it's super secure, I typically use U-line double-sided tape for all of my pop-ups, but for some reason I was rushing today, which is fine. The glue ended up working okay. And then basically your base is fully constructed. It's really easy to put together. You can make a lot of these all at once if you want to mass produce these. Because if you think about it, the only thing you're really decorating is that spinner. So I think out of all the pop-ups that we've brought out, this one would be the best to mass produce. I honestly don't think it will take really much longer than a regular flat card design. So yeah, now for the fun part, we're decorating. I added a gray trapeze to the bottom of each side of my snow globe. I do like to decorate the back of these cards because they are 360, but I keep the back pretty simple. So for the trapeze on the front, I did add a little white snow hill using that stitched hill that I cut earlier in the video. But for the one in the back, I just left that one completely gray. I want the back to look clean, but not necessarily super decorated. I just want it to look finished. So now I have my little lantern. I did double it up with 2 layers of white cardstock just to make it a little bit more sturdy because I'm going to have this one floating behind my sentiment. You might have noticed that I added 2 foam dots behind the sentiment to help it stay in place and not fall forward. And so that lantern is going to be kind of floating behind that popped up sentiment, and the tree I glued directly to the card base. This tree again is the smaller size from that Winter Trees die set, and I added white behind my gray tree this time to make it stand out a little bit more. And now we're going to work on the spinner. So you're going to want some twine. The only twine in my stash that I have is super thick, so I like to pull it apart in half, and that's going to create more of like a string or several threads, if that makes sense. You're going to want something that's pretty thin. Twine normally works fine. Mine just is so thick for some reason. You can also use ribbon. Fishing line would create a super fast spinning card. I have seen someone do that, and it's really cool. I have to get my hands on some of the fishing line. And yeah, really anything you have in your stash will work as long as it's fairly thin. So what I did was I knotted it at the top, and then I strung it through that hole on the top of my card. I left the string long just to ensure that I can glue these back to back. I should have probably at this point cut it, but I went ahead and sandwiched my 2 spinners back to back, wedging that string in between both. And then here I'm having a little bit of trouble cutting it, but it ended up being okay. And that's pretty much it. I did not create a super big knot. You saw there that I spun it, so it does work. But because my knot isn't super big, I can take it in and out of the globe. So if you want your recipient to take it out and use it as an ornament or as a tag, you can do that depending on how big your knot is. So I tend to create a knot that can easily go through the hole, but is big enough that it won't completely fall when it's spinning. So you kind of just have to try it out yourself and see what works. So my card is basically done. I'm just going to embellish with some snowflakes that I added to the spinner as well as to the outside of my snow globe. And these snowflakes come in the Snowflake Spinner add-on die and the Winter Essentials die. So I'm going to go ahead and add those 2 snowflakes to the back spinner as well, and then I'll add 1 large snowflake to the bottom part of the trapeze. And then here you can see how it spins. It's so cool. Off camera, I did add some iridescent gems to the center of all of my snowflakes, and that's going to finish off my card. I absolutely love the color scheme, and these cards are cool even when they're not spinning, because if they're under a fan or under your air conditioning, the centerpiece just kind of swings back and forth. It's such a cool display piece, and I think that they can even be like home decor pieces. So here are a couple close-up pictures, and then I did a little video on my phone to show you how it spins from the front. It's a bit difficult to show you guys from an overhead camera, so I like to do these little videos on my phone just to show you how amazing these cards are. I'm obsessed. Let me know if you guys prefer the slimline or the A7 ones. I like that the A7 looks more like a true snow globe, so I think it works better for the holidays. Whereas the slimline, I think, can work year-round because it's a tall, domed shape. So in that way, I kind of prefer the slimline. But in terms of look, I feel like I prefer the A7. Anyway, for my second card, I'm going to show you a swinging shadow box card. So this one's a little bit different than the one I showed a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to start again by doubling up all of my pieces. So I doubled up the solid layer, that's going to be my back panel. I'm going to double up my frame here by adding 2 layers of navy blue cardstock, and then I have another frame. To create that shadow box look, I encourage you guys to cut 2 or 3 frames instead of just doing 1. In this case, I just went with 2. But you can create super dimensional cards. You can add as many layers as you want. And in one of the cards I showed in my showcase video, I did 3 layers, and it looks awesome. It's such a substantial looking card that it doesn't even look like a card anymore. It really looks like a home decor piece. So that's kind of what I'm going for when I create these types of cards. They are a bit more time consuming because of the layers, but they're still a lot of fun to put together. So I'm using my ATG tape and glue. I guess not on this one, but on the previous ones I used both to attach my frames back to back. Again, if you use heavier weight cardstock, you don't have to worry about this. I did have to trim the inside a little bit because I didn't line it up perfectly straight. All right, so here are my 3 panels, and then I have my bottom accordion piece. So here I'm going to fold up all of my score lines to reinforce them and kind of train them for the accordion fold. So here's the accordion. I fold up, flip, fold up, flip, fold up, flip, fold up, and flip. Then I have that 1-inch panel at the bottom. I am going to keep it there for my sentiment. I'm going to glue 1 frame to the first mountain that's right behind the 1-inch flap, and then I'm going to glue my back panel. I want to have this gray rounded rectangle in the center to show from the back, so I went ahead and added that, and then I will attach it to the back mountain. Again, I suggest double-sided tape. I use U-line. It is super duper sticky. I love it for my pop-up cards, but glue does work. You just have to give it some time to make sure it's fully adhered. I did add my second frame right in the middle. You kind of just have to eyeball it. You can decide, how far apart you want the layers to be. And then you can even add more frames in between those other mountains and valleys if you want. So because I have 3 pieces here, I'm going to need 2 top accordions. So the first one I glued to attach my 2 frames, and then this one I'm going to glue my middle frame to my back panel. Again, you want to make sure that that middle point is down, not up. You want these to be M-shaped. All right, and that's pretty much it, but you can see that it is falling backwards. you're going to have to use these side pieces that are included in the die set. Now, if you're creating a normal spinner snow globe card like I did on the first card, depending on how heavy your spinner is, you might not have to add these side pieces. But for the shadow box design, you definitely will have to add them. And I encourage you to add them no matter what card you make, just because they do add a lot of nice stability to your cards. So these just attach to the side walls. I am adding one on each side. So the first two I use to attach the two frames together. And then my last two I use to attach the middle frame to the back panel. So this is a total of 4 side pieces. And you can double cut them if you're using a Gemini machine. I'm not sure about the other ones, but I always love to double cut my elements to save time. So here you can see how much that added in terms of allowing it to stand upright. Those side pieces are definitely needed. So my Let It Snow, I foiled crooked. I encourage you guys to foil first and then die cut. But in this case, I didn't do that. So I had to trim down my strip a little bit. Therefore, I had to trim down my flap. So that's what I did there. And then I'll go ahead and add my trapeze. Again, I want to have a snow hill at the bottom of it, but this time I just freehand cut one. You definitely don't need a die. So once that's added, I'm going to go ahead and glue that to the bottom of my card. You can definitely add pattern paper there. You can add pattern paper to the back wall. I think that would be very pretty. I did do that on some of my card samples. But I wanted this to be super elegant with just white, gray, silver, and navy blue. So here I wanted the smaller of the 2 rounded rectangles to create my swinging piece. I did also die cut one from white so that I can create some snow hills that are already in the shape of that spinner. So I thought I would go with 2. I only end up using 1. So here I'm kind of figuring out what trees I want to use. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use the detailed tree because I just felt like it was too distracting from my reindeer. So here I tried the vellum one, I tried the gray with the white, and ultimately I only ended up using the shadow layer that I die cut from white. So it's just the silhouette of the tree, and it's completely solid white, which I think helps to make my reindeer stand out. So that's what I went with. And I'm going to add 2 layers of white die cuts behind this silver deer. This one is not going to have a back to it. So that's why I decided to add a little bit more weight to the deer. It's going to swing side to side as opposed to spin, so you're not going to see the back of this quote-unquote spinner. So luckily, I only have to decorate one of these. I do have a second navy blue piece you can see to the left. I will need that one to wedge the string in between, but I don't need to fully decorate the back piece because you're not going to see it. So I added my deer and the little bow to his neck. I think that just adds the cutest little touch. And then I'm going to take some of my smaller snowflakes and add them to the sky. And I think this just looks so pretty. I think this would be a cute mini slimline design if you don't want to make it into a pop-up. All right, so that is my finished centerpiece. I'm now going to add my string. I went with the back accordion because originally I wanted this to be a shaker card, and I knew that the shaker piece was going to take up the majority of the front of the card. But ultimately, once I had everything inside, I decorated the outside of the card, I didn't really want to add the shaker element. I will have a tutorial coming up soon where I show how to make these into shaker cards. But for this design, I really preferred it without. So using a lot of tape and glue, I'm going to glue my front and back spinners together, wedging that string in between. You might have noticed I pre-cut my string this time. And you don't need the string to go all the way to the bottom. For this card, I only went about halfway. and it's still going to swing just fine. And it will also spin if you want it to be a spinner instead. So I have some acetate. I do want to add acetate to the front of my card. I think that really adds to the shadow box effect. It looks almost like glass. So I did make a mistake. I should not have glued the front side pieces to the front frame. I should have left it open, or I should have added my acetate before closing it, should I say. But I was able to pull it up. There was a couple little nicks, not nicks, but bumps. So I'm going to hide those with some snowflakes. So it wasn't a huge deal, but if you want to add acetate to your shadow boxes, just make sure you do that before you close off the sides and the top. So just like the first card, I am going to add a little lamp post to the front behind my sentiment, and I'll also add a tree. So this is the smaller tree. The one that's inside the shadow box, I used the larger of the two trees. This one is the smaller one. I also trimmed it down to make it even shorter. So that's a trick with your tree dies. If you just trim the bottoms, you can really create any height that you want for your trees. Then I added my lamppost, and then all I have to do is embellish with my snowflakes. And I just feel like snowflakes complete a Christmas card so well. They're kind of like butterflies for the spring. And if you're ever looking to embellish a card in any way, I feel like for winter cards, snowflakes are the way to go. I just think they're the perfect little fillers, and they dress up a card so nicely. Now, if my blue frame wasn't as bumpy as it was when I kind of had to tear it apart again, I probably would not have added this many snowflakes, but I think it still looks really pretty, and I just love how it turned out. So here's a close-up, and then here are the two cards together. I love that they match. If you love a color scheme, you love the images you're working with, why not create two cards with pretty much the same design, just changed up a little bit. I think this is a great little gift set. So I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thanks again to everyone who commented in the product showcase video, and congrats to the winners. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers, super exciting. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!